I'm going to do this thing, Case. And again, I don't know how well put together this is. This has been floating around in my head for like a day and a half, and it's a couple of different thoughts that have come together. And I'm going to unload them here and share them with you. And I want you to let me know what you think. But it's kind of multi-generational Lions. Yeah. It's multi-generational Lions kind of historical performance. And then saying, if we do anything, let's learn from the past and let's apply this going forward. And it all started last week, and I guess this fomented for a while, but and then it did in the Slack some more. I want Wade Phillips as our defensive coordinator.
Okay.
Period. End of story. That's it. Wade Phillips, he had that tweet we talked about in the show last week where he's looking at the whole league and he just wants to help somebody win. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? He's great. He did it with McVay, put together a stellar defense for the Rams, got him to a Super Bowl. Guys
was there with the Broncos when they were absolutely dominant. And
guys killer. He's also been a head coach, right?
Yeah.
He knows what a head coach needs. He knows what a head coach wants, right? He's going to serve his head coach better than, I'm going to pull someone just an easy one out, some idiot like Jim Bob Cooter, right?
Yeah.
We brought Jim Bob in. He's just trying to figure out his own job, much less how to help the coach, right? So this started getting me thinking, and I'm going to take it to Caldwell, okay? Because we talk about Caldwell, and this is, I don't know if my thinking's changed. You guys can judge this for me, okay? We always said Caldwell is no better than a 9-7 coach, right? And I started thinking about it. I was like, well, what if he's a better coach than that? Because it was always about how great he led the team and how he had a leader of men. He had the guys with him, right? But he just couldn't get his shit together on the field. A lot of close losses, that kind of stuff. Big comeback wins it took all the time. I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, but he had Joe Lombardi.
Yeah.
And then he had Jim Bob frickin' Cooter on offense, right? So he's got to be involved in that, and that's a problem. That's taking away from his time to lead the team, right? So think about it. I mean, and then and I'm not letting him off because those are people he hired. He also purposely
that he wanted to keep around.
He purposely kept Ron Prince, who got rid of Larry Warford for us. Right. Yeah. This is so again, I'm not going to say he's not culpable. This is why he's a 9-7 coach, because these are the people he's hiring. Right. But think about it. Let's look at these guys. You know, you look at Jim Bob Cooter. What is he now? He's a running back coach for Gase and the Jets. Boy, try to say that 5 times fast. How's that going? Le'Veon Bell is now ready for a trade. He's only worked with him for 6 months, and now he's ready for a trade already. How about Terrell Austin? He left. Right? And at the end of the season, he knew his time was going to be up anyway. On January 11th, he started with the Bengals. By November 12th, the same year, he was relieved of his duties after being the first NFL defensive coordinator in history to give up 500 yards or more in 3 straight games against the Chiefs, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans Saints, respectively. Now he's a senior defensive assistant secondary coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, so that's where your defensive coordinator wound up. After letting over 1,500 yards in 3 games, he's now somewhere else in a lower level assistant role. Okay, what about Joe Lombardi? Oh, well, he was a quarterbacks coach from 2016 till now, and for 100 years before that. That's all he's done is that job as coach Drew Brees. He can't, right? I mean, he's
who he was younger than.
Exactly, right? So it's like, wow, what are we talking about here? This is, I think, if I go back now to Jim Schwartz, he had Gunther Cunningham, put together a pretty stout defense. We were looking pretty good. That defense was looking pretty good with Gunner there. And I really miss Gunther. He was a great guy, but he did some good stuff with that defense. Oh my God.
That was a true case of not having depth talent-wise, because the starting group that out the gate was very good for that group. And then they just, every time we'd get to the end of the season, they'd be racked with injuries. In 2011 specifically, we had we were on our 5th or 6th string defensive backs.
Who was the offensive coordinator? Went to Dallas. I can't remember his name earlier.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Jim, Joe.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, I knew it when I was thinking about this half an hour ago, right? But
who was really good at dialing up some vertical offense stuff?
Stanford had his best years.
When there was protection.
Linehan, thank you, Scott Linehan. Stafford had his best years under Linehan. He had high interceptions. I know that. But his yards were off the charts, and this team would move the ball. And we went from an 0-16 team to a team that actually had hope, right? And when that ended, when we ended that kind of spot, we said, you know something? It's time to move on. Schwartz took us as far as he could. We're going to bring in Caldwell. And so we moved on from Linehan to Joe Lombardi, right? And then Terrell Austin kind of, I think, made the hop. He was there the last year with Schwartz, maybe. But that's the hop we made. And what happened? Caldwell, again, had the team in his hand, eaten from his hand. He owned that team, but he didn't have coordinators that were worth a crap, right?
Right.
So let's fast forward now to current coach, good old Matt Patricia. Let's see what he's got when he starts. Well, he's convinced to keep Jim Bob Cooter by Matthew Stafford, by all accounts that we heard, right? The first year that he's here, he's shackled to Jim Bob Cooter.
Which maybe we should criticize Stafford for that.
I don't. 100%. Yeah. Go ahead.
You know I'm a Stafford slappy, but that's if they hadn't done that, if they had gone out and got Bevel right away, things might look a little different.
And Bevel was available.
Yes, he was.
Yes. And then Pasqualoni, right? Just because it was too late to hire anybody. And so you have a new coach coming in who's now got to concentrate on the defense, right? And that's where he's supposed to be super at. And he's probably is a defensive mastermind still and probably could be. But unfortunately, he's got to run the whole team now. And he's got Jim fucking Bob Cooter, who's on the offensive side of the ball. And the offense was just choking on ass, right?
You're going to draw some ire for saying that Patricia is a defensive mastermind.
Well, no. He may be. I just said he may be, right? I said he may be. I didn't say he is. But we don't know. We don't get to know because he didn't do the defensive thing. He did it part-time. Right. And then he had the head coach on top of it, and he got spread far, far too thin. So we'll never know if he really is until later he performs or doesn't perform somewhere else. But that's that. That's the end of the story. But he's been saddled.
Boy, that is going to be the rub, man. Patricia goes somewhere else and has success.
He has been saddled out of the gate with Jim Bob Cooter, and then he brings in Bevel, who I think is above average as far as offensive coordinators go, and maybe doesn't have all the talent that he wants. But he isn't like this go get him kind of guy. Now think about it, okay? If we had, and I'm going to put two names out there that don't make sense and weren't available or whatever to do this, right? What if he had started with Wade Phillips on defense and Eric Bieniemy running the offense, thinking that Eric Bieniemy as an offensive coordinator has the talent and skills that he has today, right? All of a sudden, coach doesn't have to run the defense. Coach doesn't have to fix the offense or figure it out and spend a bunch of time on that. Coach can run the team. Coach can run the press conferences. Coach can do coach things instead of coordinator things, right? And that's what I think. If I throw back out of Patricia, I throw back to Caldwell. I think he is the perfect example of that situation to a T. He had that team. He had him wrapped around his finger. He was a great coach, a great leader of men, but he had nobody helping him and or doing much for him in his coordinator roles. And I think that's what sunk him. And that was his fault because of who he hired and keeping Ron Prince, the whole thing. That's on him. But that's why he's a 9-7 coach, because he doesn't know how to surround himself with the right kind of talent. I think Patricia maybe didn't have a great shot out of the gate to surround himself with the talent he wanted. Timing wasn't right, whatever. I'm not saying keep him because of it, right? But I'm saying now, if I take this historical look and I look back at how we've performed as a team with and who our coordinators were, I'm putting a much, much bigger focus on these coordinators. Sean McVay, a young guy, came in, started coaching, and he could relate to these guys, right? He's young. He's right there around their age and kind of can relate to what it's like to be a gajillionaire at 25 years old or at a super young age. There's an element to that versus like Parcells coming in at 50 and saying, hey, back in my day, right? The whole thing. It's a different kind of head coach that you can bring in when you have Wade Phillips as a defensive coordinator and Eric Bieniemy as your offensive coordinator. So I'm going to say that I think a lot of the Lions' historic and current failures are lined up along the talent we had at those coordinator positions. Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do? I don't know. But this is something that I'm going to spend a lot of time on. I'm going to dive in on more. And it's something I'm going to watch like a freaking hawk as we go through this process with the end of this year, likely new coach and possibly new GM. This is, I think, going to be two I think it's almost more important to have these coordinators than the head coach, because they'll get the people out there to play. And as long as the coach isn't pure cancer, I think you'll have a good team. You know what I mean? The coach gets the credit, but I think it lands right there on those coordinators and who we keep. Hank Fraley, I don't want him to go anywhere. This guy is absolutely spectacular. Ryan Coombs, don't want him to go anywhere. He has brought the special teams group back. And again, seeing Fraley out there and what he does, I don't care if you broom everybody else. And I do. There's a couple other people I don't keep, but those two are absolute keepers for this team. And that's the talent that we should really be grooming and building on this team, is these coaches and these coordinators, because this offensive line this year that was going to be such a shit show with Hank has suddenly become something that nobody expected. Nobody expected what we got. And Hank Fraley, I credit 100% with what he's done with that offensive line. It's probably one of the few things you can't point at and laugh at in this Lions team. Right. Keep that damn coach. And every time you find one at their position group that's just as good, you keep them and you pay them I don't care how much it costs. That's how you build a winner. You got to build it from the inside coaches and the coordinators. And then the head coach, you make it so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that any numbskull could pick a head coach. That's, I think, I'm putting a stream out there, obviously, but that's my position, and that's why, to take it all back to the beginning again, I'm sold on Wade Phillips as our defensive coordinator, because whoever's the coach doesn't have to worry about the defense if he's there.